The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, has released an investigation report on the collision between the container ship MSC Rita and the fishing vessel Tremont that occurred in October of 2022. On October the 28th, 2022, at 12:36 a.m. local time, the container ship MSC Rita and the fishing vessel Tremont were underway in the Atlantic Ocean, 55 miles southeast of Virginia, when the two vessels collided. The 13 people aboard the Tremont abandoned the vessel and were rescued by a Good Samaritan vessels and a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter. No injuries were reported. An oil sheen was reported. A potential of up to 31,000 gallons of diesel fuel were lost with the fishing vessel. Damage to the vessels were estimated at $4.7 million for the Tremont and $1.5 million for the MSC Rita. While the container ship MSC Rita was southbound early in the morning, the fishing vessel Tremont was headed north-northeast in the same area. Shortly after the Tremont passed ahead of the MSC Rita, the Tremont suddenly turned back towards the container ship. At that time, the mate on board the Tremont was operating the vessel and attempting to fix the vessel's gyro compass, which the captain stated later had been off by 10 degrees for the last 4 or 5 days. As he worked to fix the compass, the mate left the vessel's autopilot engaged. The collision resulted in all damage to the Tremont on its port side and the bow. The crew found water in the engine room. A bilge alarm went off, and within 10 minutes of the collision, flooding was found to have reached the main deck above the fish hold. The crew did not determine the source of the rapid flooding and subsequently abandoned the vessel. Based on witness statements and photographs of the vessel before it sank, the flooding was likely caused by port side oil damage at the engine room. After the collision, the Tremont captain used the VHF to signal a distress call, but because of the distance to the local Coast Guard station, the distress call was weak and the Coast Guard could only hear the mayday and the vessel's name. The captain then used the vessel's satellite phone to call 911 and communicate the nature of the emergency as well as the location. The National Transportation Safety Board determined that the probable cause of the collision between the container ship and the fishing vessel was that the Tremont's mate not maintaining a proper lookout and keeping the autopilot engaged while troubleshooting the vessel's gyro compass, which resulted in the vessel turning around into the path of the MSC Rita. I'm not saying lack of maintenance was involved here, but lack of paint seemed to be an issue with this vessel. Out of all the pictures I found of her, there's only one with her with new paint. She's a rust bucket. Not saying that was the cause, but lack of paint normally means lack of maintenance. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is this crew, and it was a large crew, they all got off safe. The boat can be replaced. The container ship can be repaired. Although I think the container ship has recently been retired. She hasn't moved for a while. But everybody got to go home to their families, and that's the main thing.